The holidays are all about sharing with family. Meals, couches, stories, Grandma's secret pecan pie recipe. And now you can also share a cart with Instacart family carts. Everyone can add what they want to one group cart from wherever they are. So you don't have to go from room to room to find out who wants cranberry sauce, or whether you should get mini marshmallows for the yams, or collecting votes for sugar cookies versus shortbread. Just share a cart, and then share the meals and the moments. Download the Instacart app and get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes. Plus, enjoy free delivery on your first 3 orders. Service fees and terms apply.
Forget one-size-fits-all diets. With Noom, you get a personalized weight loss plan that's tailored to your lifestyle. Have cravings? Food FOMO? Noom can help you lose weight while still enjoying your favorite foods. Noom's users love the flexible approach, blending psychology and biology to help you lose weight in a way that's sustainable for you. Plus, you can rest assured Noom's approach is grounded in science. They've published more than 30 peer-reviewed scientific articles describing their methods and effectiveness. Stay focused on what's important to you with Noom's psychology and biology-based approach. Sign up for your trial today at Noom.com.
Episode 9 of The Messenger, the Rachel Cancer Scam. Previously on The Messenger, I told you about the mandatory grief counseling. Now, Rachel's cancer was at stage 4, and the last time I ever saw Rachel. Prior to this podcast, and knowing everything I know now, I was actually writing a series called Harry Loved Rachel. I spoke with you about it in an earlier episode, and it's a familiar one to some of those that are close to me. It's familiar because I wrote a series of letters to Rachel, love letters, which I called Harry Loves Rachel. You see, in my world, as I told you in the opening moments of episode 1, that episode is actually called Harry Loved Rachel. I thought I was writing the greatest love story of our time, certainly of my life. I wrote about 80 of them. They tell the story of our love. They speak to the future and possibilities for Rachel and I. I spent days and hours writing them, and then I recorded them and turned them into an audio series. They tell our story in almost the exact same way that I'm sharing my story with you now through this podcast. I did it 80 times. I did it to assist her while she laid bedridden for the 1.5 years until she was exposed. And most importantly, I did it for us, never intending for anyone but us to hear our private story. I'd write 1,500 to 2,500 words in each episode. I built this series for her to call in those episodes whenever she wanted to listen to something, whenever she wanted to hear my voice. They're about as long as these podcast episodes as well. One day I put them all together in my audio editor, just so she could have them all in one place. A convenient way to listen, so she could just click stop and pick back up whenever. When I did that and pieced them all together, it was over 26 hours long. It would have taken her over a day to hear them all. To me, it was and is a beautiful romantic tale in many ways. At this point, I don't think anyone will ever hear them. I don't think I could ever release them in any way. And regarding that 26 hours that it would take to listen, I want to put that into perspective for you. And I know at the beginning when I told you she had a degree in biomathematics that there would be no math in this podcast. I guess I lied. We have the various calculations for her lies about her career and deaths and people in her life and all of that. I do want to add a little bit more math to our podcast, if I may. 80 episodes of Harry Loves Rachel, total 26 hours. 26 hours of our episodes, our show. Now, network shows that are 1 hour are only 42 minutes with, commercials added in after that. Gets them to the hour. If my calculations are correct, 26 hours times 60 minutes is 1,560 minutes. 42, the number of minutes of a network show, divided into 1,560, gets us to just over 37 episodes of what would be a network-length show. You add 8 episodes of this podcast, and that would be 4 seasons of a network drama. How crazy is that? I also read her 150 meditations to assist in the practice of mindfulness. And I read a bunch of her favorite books as well. I told her stories, and I played my guitar, and I was her virtual emotional support person through this whole process as she was dealing with what turned into protective isolation and stage 4 cancer at French Hospital in San Luis Obispo, California. The protective isolation, that's another critical piece of this story because that's what would keep me from seeing her. You've heard me speak about it in the past. I probably don't need to tell you that I would have switched places with her daughter or just gone there in a second. Now, one thing I touched on during the first episode was that Rachel claimed to have been a victim of multiple sexual attacks. She was also hit on relentlessly by men and claimed that she was always being sexualized. She shared many of those stories with me, and in my head, I continue to hear the quote from her sister, which was relayed to me third hand, which is, Rachel was raped 100 times in her own mind. One particular story that she relayed was a story about a cardiologist in SLO that would have her come in before his office actually opened to check on her heart. He would repeatedly spend too much time, according to Rachel, placing and removing leads on her chest to get an EKG. Often he would linger, as she would say. During March of 2022, March 16th of 2022, she texted me that she was coming to see me after her appointment with him, and she was deeply upset, claimed that she didn't ever want to go see him again without me. And this date, March 16th, was a date that stuck in my mind. It was the day after she did some sort of a refinancing on her home with Mark. One of the lies that I didn't share with you is that she told me she bought the house by herself and that Mark's name wasn't on it at all. And we'll get to that in time. But at the moment, you understand that Rachel and her husband Mark own that home together, even still at this moment, as of June of 2024. Regarding that cardiologist, she said that she didn't want to see him again without me nearby. He apparently had her remove her bra, and she claims to have kept herself covered up with her hands, but, he spent too much time lingering around, and it was a big deal, as it would be to any woman, and off-putting. It's actually the least offensive and inappropriate doctor contact that you'll probably hear me talk about during the course of this podcast. Again, these stories from her, certainly the stories as my story goes, are crazy stories from her. What kind of sick mind invents this kind of thing? This is some Gone Girl kind of stuff. It gets worse. The hospital stay would be horrifying and humiliating on so many levels. She indicated to me that Dr. Hightower was running the show, and once her immune system was completely compromised, he made it clear that only one doctor would be allowed in per shift for this protective isolation. The doctor would have to provide medications and care unless there was an emergency. Those doctors were all male. And I'll remind you again that I'm a protector. She was doing this and inventing these stories to keep me around, to get to me, and to see, I think, how I'd respond and what my limits were. She wanted to know how far she could push me, how much I could take. She knew that me knowing that my girl was being touched was going to get to me. And imagine being a woman, the horrors which she would describe to me, the humiliation of having a doctor come in and take care of you while you're dealing with your period, or to clean you after you use the bathroom, or to bathe you. At the beginning, she claimed she could do those things by herself, but over time she claimed that she had gotten weaker and weaker. She had me believing that men were doing all of these things. It was awful to hear. And as a woman, I'm sure you can only imagine. It was equally cruel to me. I felt so far beyond helpless with this situation. It was crazy. She wrote to me time and time again saying things like, "This experience has taken away so much from me as a woman, who I am." They were powerful words. She went on to say that she'd never be the same ever again after being touched in these ways. The few people that I've shared this story with in my life have asked me why. Why would she just keep you around with no plan to ever get to you? I mean, how does one recover from this lie? Ever? Now, here's a thought for you, and it didn't come from me, actually. It came from her husband, Mark. He said, I think she really loved you. It may sound ridiculous and naive. It may seem that I'm blind or that he is. We'll never know because she's a narcissist and likely also a sociopath. She'll never speak about this. She'll never own up to this. I've been told that she's on her Facebook and social media saying she's being slandered and lied about, and she's lost friends and family members because of my lies. And of course, it's her own lies that have caused people to run in droves. My response is, come on this podcast. Let's have a conversation. She's up to her neck in lies, so far up to her neck that she could never do that, ever. Narcissists hate being questioned at all. They don't like being accused of lying. It's even worse than someone who isn't a narcissist being accused of a lie. You want to see someone put on an act. Accuse a narcissist of lying. Cue the drama. And Rachel is no exception. What she did to keep me on the line, to keep her hook in my mouth, as I've been saying, and not toss me back in the water, is incredible. It took incredible effort and time. The one thing which has come out of all this to me is what she found in me, I think, is someone who she knew would be there. Someone that was consistently consistent. And someone that not only believed her, but believed in her. She knew from the moment she concocted the story of horrendous abuse by Mark over a dozen years ago that I wouldn't just walk away from her, that I would always remain in her life at some level. There was, if nothing else, an emotional affair which took place, along with the physical affair. And in 2021, when she got sick and pregnant, and she and I fell in love, and we got engaged, she knew I wouldn't just leave her. So again, I'll pose the rhetorical question. What sort of sociopath do you have to be to lead someone through a tale of lies like this? Small-town crime can be horrific. Some of the darkest stories, the most chilling and heinous murders happen where you least expect it. In small towns, these crimes often get overlooked, but not on True Crime Cast, where these cases are put in the spotlight. Join hosts Jamie and John every week as they uncover chilling cases from notorious murders that shook the world to small-town mysteries that have flown under the radar until now. Get ready for gripping storytelling, spine-tingling details, and cases you've yet to hear about. True Crime Cast, wherever you get your podcasts. Brought to you by Stoveleg Media. Let me do something that I used to give Rachel a lot of grief for doing. When I thought she was sick and in the hospital, she would constantly say, well, what if this? What if that? We all have someone in our life that does that. When one engages in a match of the what if game, you're playing a game where there are no winners. There's no cash for first place. There are no trophies. There are no prizes. They don't even hand out participation trophies in the what if game. Nobody wins that game. Ever in the history of the game. Now, having said that, how about you and I play a round of the what if game? Just one round. And because it's not interactive, I can't see or hear you. I'll give you some possible follow-up questions as well. Here we go. Round one. What if Rachel said, Harry, I need to talk to you. I haven't been truthful. What if she said to me, I'm still married to Mark. I don't have cancer. We were never pregnant. I took your engagement ring with no intention of marrying you, but I love you. What would have happened? Where would we be? She could have said, what if I'd said that? Could you forgive me? Can we fix this? What if she said, will you stay with me? And I hate admitting this to you. And maybe it speaks to the sickness of all of this, to how deeply I loved her and how invested I was in this. I think I could have looked past these lies just to have a chance at a love like the one I thought we had. As I reflect on this story and I share it with you, I can almost hear Keith Morrison's voice narrating it, probing with questions that delve into the depths of deception and the betrayal. The more I share with you, the more I feel like it's one of those narratives that deserves to be heard as a crucial part of my healing process. The story needs to be shared and curated and spread, also as a cautionary tale for everyone, especially those who know Rachel. For the residents of San Luis Obispo County, Atascadero, SLO, Paso, and for colleagues at the airport and the airline, this tale carries particular weight. It's a reminder of how trust can be manipulated and shattered. And in another way, for those of you who don't know and will never meet Rachel, it's my way of urging vigilance and awareness in personal relationships and professional settings alike. As I recount these events, I hope that by shedding light on the intricate web of deceit that was woven around me, others can learn to recognize similar patterns and protect themselves from similar experiences. The story isn't just mine. It's a narrative that serves as a beacon of caution, resonating with anyone who has faced similar challenges. In a way, the story is like a car crash, an accident of some sort. All the rubberneckers slowing down as they pass. Oh, look at that. I wonder what happened there. Wow. I'm the guy that was in that wreck. My heart was in a nearly fatal car crash. The equivalent of a car running off the road, flipping over 5 times, landing upside down, half in a gully. On the side of the road, car filling with water on one side, and the other side, fuel is leaking. And small sparks create a flame. And you're thinking to yourself as you watch it, does this poor fucker drown or does he burn to death? I'm not sure, but I think that's where we are. At times, that's what it feels like to me anyway. In early October of 2021, I was due to be in Los Angeles for Billy Bush's birthday party. She and I had been communicating a lot during this period. The party was the weekend of October 8th. I was planning to head to LA for the weekend. I would join Billy and a small group of friends on Saturday night for dinner, and the party was scheduled for Sunday. She told me that she was running the Boston Marathon on Monday, October 10th. She couldn't come to the party, but she could meet me and be my +1 for the dinner on Saturday night. She'd have to get up on Sunday morning and make her way to LAX to get to Boston and to Hopkinton. 2 days before we were supposed to meet, she sent me a text message. And this was a text I figured I'd always get one day from her. I just didn't think it would be that day. Now, keep in mind as I share this message with you, that what transpired between Rachel and I over the years was a physical and emotional affair, which happened during various periods of time. It wasn't consistent the entire time, nor was there ever any talk prior to this of anything long-term. That would all follow. On October 7th, I received the following text message from her. I know we discussed this before, and you had stated it's not your feelings. However, I feel differently. I'm at a point in my life where I'm not really looking for sex for fun and nothing more. And if we aren't in a place that we can hang out or see each other because we can't fool around, then I think I need to step back. I really enjoy my time with you. You're a lot of fun, and I'm obviously attracted to you, but I've learned my place. After 20 years in each other's lives, I'm fully aware that this is my place in your life. I love being your friend, and I believe that that's where it's going to have to stay. Even though I'm not ever wanting to be married again, I do want to be loved again. I want to be someone's everything, and not just their friends with benefits. I am ready to love and be loved. I want more, and I'm not asking for more from you. I know where I stand. But if I want that in my life, I can't keep doing this with you. I'm all for dinner and a hangout if we're in each other's town. But I just can't be the girl you're wanting from me. I'm not the same person you met 20 years ago. She said, I'm already aware of what the response is going to be to this. I know you don't want to hang out without the promise of more. So don't feel like you owe me an explanation or response. I just need you to know where I am and what I want in my life. That message and the situation was, in a way, kind of complex for me to process. And particularly because our communication had intensified significantly since I had last seen her in August, which was just 5 or 6 weeks prior to that. I found myself contemplating how to navigate the newfound intensity beyond the emotional and the physical. As I've confided to you before, this wasn't an ordinary relationship for me. It carried 2 decades of history and meaning, and I knew I had to approach it differently to be fully present, I guess, and attentive. The stakes felt higher. I was determined not to jeopardize a connection that had spanned 20 years. I mulled over these thoughts and grappled with doubts about my own capabilities. Could I handle the challenges ahead? Would I be able to sustain this level of engagement? The dinner we shared on August 27th in Santa Barbara loomed large in my mind. It was a memorable evening that was etched vividly just weeks before that text message came. The freshness of that evening contrasted sharply with the weight of communication that would follow, especially this message. I shared with you that I whispered in her ear while we were getting our Uber home from the restaurant on August 27th, that if it wasn't for proximity, I would be all in. On Saturday night, we ended up meeting in LA at our hotel. We cleaned up, went over to Billy's house, and then out to dinner. And after dinner, we went back to our hotel, spent the night. And in the morning, she got up, dressed, and scurried off, pretending to be heading for LAX and to Boston for the marathon. The night before had been the first time that we would have spent the night in public with other people. It was a big deal to me, and it was a big moment for her, she would often say after the fact. I always missed Rachel when we were separated. I always looked at her a little bit differently than I had looked at anyone else ever. She was just somehow on this pedestal, too good to be true. And I was looking to make too good to be true into my forever. On the next episode of The Messenger, the Rachel Cancer Scam, Rachel's fantastic lies about Mark and the origins of what would become this podcast. Next time on The Rachel Cancer Scam.